Okay, I think we'll start the meeting. My name is Dr. Anthony Raya, a physician anesthetist. I'll be the moderator for today's webinar. I'd like to invite all participants to this evening's KSA webinar. Today we have an interesting topic, not our usual clinical meetings. We'll have a presentation on financial well-being and wealth management. So I'd like to invite all the local and non-local participants for this meeting. And I'd like to appreciate KSA webinar organizing team for organizing this webinar today. I'd also like to appreciate our partnering company for this webinar. That's the SBM Bank, and invite all of you for this meeting. Just a few housekeeping issues before we start. Before I invite the speaker, just like to remind everyone that we can send our questions through the chat. We'll finish the presentation, and then we can have the presenter answer all our questions. I'd also like to remind us that the session will be recorded, and these recordings can be found through the KSA website, YouTube, and Facebook page. So I'll go straight to introduction of our speaker today. As I said, we are going to have a talk that's non-clinical in nature, but equally as important as we continue to offer service to our clients. And today's topic is going to be financial well-being and wealth management. I'm pleased to introduce Ms. Doreen Ratemo. Ms. Doreen is a senior manager, elite banking and wealth management at SBM Bank, and she's going to take us through the meeting today. Welcome, Ms. Doreen. I don't know whether you're with us.
Yes, I am, Dr. Iraya.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So I was just taking a minute to sync up my devices because I'm using two different devices to just make sure that at any one point one falls off. I'm available on the other one. Okay, you confirm you can hear me?
Yes, Doreen, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you very much. So my name is Doreen Ratemo. It's such an honor and a privilege to be invited to address this amazing group of doctors. I was telling myself I will avoid to pronounce the word anest during my entire presentation because it's a little heavy on the tongue. But you had requested that I should also be able to share my video. Let me just see if I can do that. And in the meantime, we have some of my colleagues who are also on the call. Laura, thank you so much for organizing this session for us. I don't know if you want to say something small before we get started.
Yes, Laura, you can go ahead. Laura, you can just unmute yourself and give your comments.
Laura, you're there?
Good evening. Yes, I'm here. Good evening, and it's a pleasure to have an opportunity to interact, and we are hoping for a fruitful and interactive session. So thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Thank you so much, Laura. So let me just share my screen. I think later on we'll be able to give an opportunity to the rest of my colleagues. You confirm you're able to view the first screen here.
You're able to view the first.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay, so basically, I just want to share the flow in terms of what we actually have in store for you. We want to, first of all, briefly introduce who SBM Bank is, give you a bit of a background in terms of how we actually got into this market, and then we will move on into our value proposition, that is our main anchor, especially for the doctors and practitioners in this industry. And then we will move on into the wealth management segment, and then we'll touch a little bit onto financial well-being. You were very generous with the time. Thank you very much. I don't think we'll need the entire 45 minutes to take you through what we have. We are actually hoping for more of an interactive session, so we'll look forward to having more time for the Q&A session. It will be also good to have a bit of a background in terms of the audience that we have here. Maybe that's something you can be able to share with us even as we go along, so that even we can be able to sort of like tweak our content to match that. Okay, so who is SBM Bank? It's interesting that how we name ourselves is more in the form of an acronym, but this acronym actually stands for State Bank of Mauritius. And just like the name indicates, we are part of the State Bank of Mauritius. The bank was actually established in 1978, and it's one of the strongest franchise that is there in Mauritius. It's listed in the Stock Exchange of Mauritius as effective from 1995. That means it has been a public listed company for a number of years. SBM is actually the second largest bank in Mauritius. It has a market share of 25% of the domestic banking assets that is there in Mauritius. With the total market capitalization of about 513 million USD, it is actually the third largest listed in the Stock Exchange of Mauritius. The total asset base of SBM is actually sitting at about 7.4 billion USD as of June 2021. It is actually part of an entire group called SBM Holdings that actually anchors quite a number of different companies that I will quickly be touching into. This I felt was a very important background to share, because you'll be able to just appreciate who we are even when we are diving into this conversation with you. So this is just a bit of history in terms of how SBM got into the country. I think sometimes we underestimate or maybe downplay the strength that Kenya is and its position in Africa. Most companies that are multinationals looking to step into the Africa space will actually come into Africa through Kenya. So SBM was not any different. So in 2017, I understand from 2016. Hello? Okay, so I was just explaining how SBM actually got into the Kenyan market. Kenya is actually one of the countries that is very strongly positioned in Africa for being a key way for various companies to enter into the African market. And that's exactly the plan that SBM has. So in 2017, they were able to successfully acquire Fidelity Commercial Bank. And then shortly after that, in 2018, they were actually able to acquire 75% of the assets and liabilities of Chase Bank, previously known Chase Bank. So I think you may be aware that some of the ways in which a company or banks or whatever institution looks to get into a market is sometimes the easiest and fastest ways through acquisition. So through this, SBM actually acquired a big advantage, and immediately it was actually able to have an existing footprint. I mentioned SBM Holding earlier, which is actually listed in the Mauritius Stock Exchange. So the SBM Holding Group is actually composed of a banking segment, which actually has SBM Bank Mauritius, SBM Bank in Madagascar, SBM Bank in India, and now SBM Bank in Kenya. And there is a non-banking financial segment whereby SBM actually is able to provide certain instruments or certain services to customers through SBM factoring. This is through the discounting of various invoices. So there's a company that handles that. There's an insurance agency. There's an e-business limited. There's a leasing company. There's a fund service. And then, of course, there's the element that plays in the capital market. And there's also a non-financial segment that is actually handled by SBM Bank Holdings. SBM Holding. So this just gives a brief into where we actually have presence, like I mentioned, in Madagascar, in Mauritius, in Kenya, and in India. What I actually wanted to mention earlier is that Kenya is just an entry point to the rest of Africa. So SBM actually does have some very aggressive growth strategy in this market. So this is just an overview of who SBM Bank Group is financially. These are actually some very, very impressive figures. Sometimes we usually like to compare ourselves and say, in this market, where would we position ourselves? And there are other banks that are actually looking at financials that are probably similar to this, would actually be looking at the KCB group. We would be looking at maybe the Equity group, who would actually be having numbers which are maybe closer to the total assets that we are looking at here. Total asset of 7.48 billion, deposits of 6 billion, loans and advances of 2.85 billion, and liabilities of 6.9, with a capital adequacy ratio of about 20%, which is actually very, very impressive. So this is now giving you an overview into who SBM Bank Kenya is. We have taken a lot of time to define ourselves and actually to position ourselves. And right now, even as you look up there, you will see the brand is actually coming out stronger than it was before, because we actually just took a bit of time to just figure out how do we want to position SBM in this market. So the vision that we have in this market is to be the leading and trusted financial service provider in this geography where we actually have presence through innovation and technology. Our mission is actually to achieve strong and sustainable returns for our shareholders, meet the relevant needs of the stakeholders. One of our key stakeholders, of course, is being the customer, and support development of the community at large. We actually are centering ourselves on some very strong core values, sitting on customer centricity, trustworthiness, integrity, respect, and prudence. And along a customer centricity, we are actually giving a pledge, and we are saying that we'll always put the customer first, and that we are committing to world-class service. Like I indicated earlier, when SBM came in, it actually acquired Fidelity and SBM and former Chase Bank in receivership. And you can see that actually gave the bank a bit of an immediate footprint of about 45 branches. We're sitting at 45 branches now, but earlier on, I think beginning of last year, we were looking at about 55 branches. But we are looking to just be efficient. So you will note that we do a bit of merging as far as the branch network is concerned. And from our vision, you can see that we want to be driven mainly through innovation and technology. So you'll see us trying to be very intentional in terms of minimizing where we actually want to have a bit of a footprint as we move most of our transactions to our digital platforms. Our deputy CEO was sharing another time that at one point he went to see a customer in Narok, and immediately they left the office. The customer was now texting him and saying, all of a sudden now I can see SBM everywhere. Before I didn't know that, I didn't notice your bank. So I'm just hoping that will be the same thing with all you good doctors this evening. So from tomorrow, I think you'll start noticing SBM branch here and everywhere. So like I said, currently we are sitting at about 45 branches, and we are actually looking to move most of our transactions onto digital platforms. So I'll touch a little into elite banking, maybe not a little, but a little more onto elite banking. Elite banking is one of our key value propositions that we present to good doctors as yourself. It's the segment that we have defined for what we call sort of like high value or potential customers who actually have a bit of a differentiated need when it comes to banking. So elite banking, we've anchored it on 4 main pillars: exclusivity, global recognition, service excellence, and wealth management. And you will see this coming through or coming strongly as I take you through the rest of my presentation. So in summary, what we offer here is that we promise that we will give you a dedicated relationship manager for all your banking needs. We do not underplay or underestimate the power of having a primary point of contact when you're dealing with an organization. So this is something that we position very strongly, and we take it a notch further and make sure that the relationship team is not just one person, but you'll actually have 1, 2, or 3 various people that you can be able to reach out to at any one point in time. We did speak about how we are going to anchor most of our transacting on a digital platform. And through technology, we are able to deliver ease and convenience. We have a very distinct lending solution that will also be taking you through. Our debit and credit cards are actually embedded with a lot of travel and shopping benefits that makes it very attractive for our customers. And how we deliver global recognition, and I'll be touching into that, in the sense that if we are recognizing you here, we want you to also be recognized in all the various places where you travel. Exclusivity of services, we'll also touch on that. You'll be able to see how we deliver that. Wealth management solution, which is the anchor of our presentation today. So we'll do a deep dive into that, as well as a host of partnership and lifestyle benefits. So the transacting experience, digital platforms we are talking about is our mobile banking app. It's actually an award-winning app that we are very, very excited about. We call it Mfukoni. Just as the name suggests, it's actually banking in your pocket, and as well as our own online banking platform. How we're actually able to deliver sort of a prioritized transacting experience for you is because every transaction that is processed through us is through a dedicated green channel. When we say green, it's basically like the traffic lights which says go, meaning when any instructions come through to us, we prioritize to process that as quickly as possible. The distinct lending solutions here, how we position it is that you come across opportunities all the time. So how do you take advantage of these opportunities? Be it a dream home, be it a new car you're looking at, maybe you're looking to get a second home at the coast, a holiday home, or you're looking to finance a huge project, a next block of apartments, or whatever it is that you're looking at. We are able to actually position ourselves very strongly in terms of how we are able to solution your lending. And this is something that we're very excited about. And I'll go into a little bit of detail just to tell you what we have available. We are currently able to give unsecured lending up to 7 million unsecured. It is actually a very generous unsecured limit. For those who actually are dealing in different currencies, aside from the Kenya shilling, we're actually able to extend this to you in GBP or in USD or in Euro. The repayment period for this is within 6 years, and as a bank, we usually take a small arrangement fee or facility fee of about 2%. At the same time, sometimes you might want a bit of a buffer on your account to the extent that sometimes payments are delaying, or you just want a bit of a cash boost. So we're actually able to set up an overdraft on your accounts up to a net of 80% of your net. It says the net salary, but we look at net incomes. So we're able to look at your net incomes and mark up to 80% of that in the form of an overdraft on your account, which is renewable on an annual basis. The mortgage space is also a very exciting space for us because we are actually able to help you do various things. We can help you do a new purchase. If you've just in a house for yourself and your family and you want to purchase that, we can be able to finance you that. We might help you also to release a bit of equity from any property that you're already holding. This could be property that's already charged to you, doesn't have any lien on it. You can bring that to us and we can release a bit of equity on that. Or it could be a mortgage that you've been servicing for a bit of time and you want to run with the next project and there's a bit of leeway in terms of the value of that property. We can release some equity from that. Another thing is if you have a facility in another bank and you've fallen in love with SBM and you're saying, okay, Doreen, now I want to move this mortgage to yourself, we're actually able to facilitate that. And even as you're moving that, we ask, do you have any immediate need or any projects you want to take up? So if there's some equity in that, we can also release that as well. We are also big on construction financing, and this is a key differentiator for us because we are one of the few banks in the industry that are able to give a loan to value of 90% across all the various mortgage options, especially the mortgage option of construction financing. There's a bit of restrictions. Even as you shop around in the market, you'll see some banks will say maybe we can only do 50, 60%, but with SBM, we're actually positioning that construction financing at 90%. We are able to extend the financing for mortgages up to 15 years. That translates to about 180 months. And because this facility is secured, the commitment fee or the arrangement fee in this case is only 1%. The other area in which we are very excited is that we are actually able to finance you 100% on any brand new vehicle that you buy. So if today you go to any shop, DT Dobby or Inchcape, and you see a vehicle, we are actually able to finance you 100% for that, including the insurance premium financing. Any used vehicle, we're actually able to finance up to 80% for that. Specifically, why we say 80% is because you'd appreciate that vehicles do have a depreciating value, but we find that the 80% is still a very decent or rather very competitive offering for loan to value. On the credit card space, again, this is another space that we actually play quite well. We're actually able to give unsecured limits up to 2.5 million. So if you require a higher limit than the 2.5 on a card, we can now discuss secured. But most of the time, we find a limit of 2.5 to be more than generous. On the 2.5 side, you're actually able to give you an additional card for a supplementary, whether it is for your spouse or for your child. And we found that our customers actually like this option because all the statements and transactions are viewed from the primary card holder. So it's actually a very good way for you sort of like to observe how a dependent is actually transacting on a card. And I don't want to call it stalking, but you pretty much know everything, or rather their transacting activities on a card. So the supplementary card option is usually a very attractive option. And what we do usually is every time you apply a facility, we will add for you a credit card to this with a minimum limit of 500,000 for a start. So you transact with the limit of 500,000 and then you tell us, is this sufficient or do you want to increase that? So we are usually open and usually have that conversation. But right now what we do is we include it in every account that you actually open with us. And we include the credit card also in any loan application that you do take with us. On the insurance premium financing side, we found this is an option a lot of customers take up, not so much because they are not in a position to pay for the insurance, but because sometimes they just need to have a bit of a cash flow or boost in terms of the funds that they already have. So the premium financing is actually a very convenient and a sufficient way for you to just service any premiums that you could be looking to put in place for insurance. And the premium financing is actually twofold. It's for the vehicle or equipment that you're buying, and it's also for international medical insurance premiums as well. At this point, we just thought maybe we just share with you why sometimes it might be a good option to let whatever money that you already have accumulating in savings to keep serving you while you actually explore the option of borrowing, because some customers are usually like, why should I borrow when I already have this money, so I can just buy the property as I would like. Successful borrowing can help you create a positive credit history. You never know when you need a good credit history to back you up. Leveraging can be used to increase the return on your investments. You will note in terms of leveraging is like right now we know the infrastructure bond is very attractive, so you might want to let whatever investments you have sitting there or whatever investments you're sitting in a savings account to keep working for you even as you explore borrowing options. Credit cards are a convenient way to make purchases, and of course I touched in terms of how sometimes it's a very structured way to sort of like observe how your dependents and sort of like monitor and control your dependents' spending. Interest on some form of borrowing is tax deductible. This is very true, especially for those who are running a practice in the form of a limited company. When you actually declare that you actually have a facility, you realize that is actually something that you can be able to get a bit of tax benefits because it is tax deductible, any facilities that you're having. Overspending is a risk when credit is readily available. We like to sing this as bankers because when you're able to borrow, the rest of your money can keep working for you. Yeah, so that's that. So we did say that one of our key pillars is the global recognition. Feel free to just interrupt me if you'd like any clarification, so it's not too much of a monologue. So global recognition, what we're saying here is at any point in time, you are known here that you are Dr. So-and-so. What about when you're traveling? Because we've said as a bank, we'll make sure that we are giving you an excellent experience. You have a primary point of contact. So when you're transacting in Kenya, should not be different when you're transacting when you've traveled out there. So how we deliver this global recognition is through the type of card that we actually issue you. So the debit card that we are currently issuing right now is the Visa Infinite card, which is actually the highest ranking card within the Visa range. It is a globally recognized card in the sense that if you produce it at any point of purchase or internationally, it is a card which is recognized, and then people will be able to see that you're actually a high value customer. The card comes with various benefits. It has multi-travel insurance. This is to the tune of up to $2 million. This is something that is activated every time you use your card to make a purchase of your air ticket, or at least 50% of your air ticket is purchased by the card. So you'll be able to have an automatic multi-travel insurance kick in. The card also has a priority pass component in the sense that it gives you access to various airport VIP lounges. This is just in case you're not traveling first class or business class, or in case you have a guest, you'll be able to access the VIP lounges using the card. This is actually delivered through an app. There's an app that is called the Launch Key app. So we guide you and we make sure that you download the app on your phone so that when you're traveling, we're actually able to advise you, or rather it can advise you which launches you can be able to access. Purchase protection, what Visa does here is that it adds an extra protection for any purchase that you're actually doing. So you'll realize, so long as you keep your receipt, there's an added protection that is usually added for any purchase you do using the card. Again, Visa is quite generous and they added an extended warranty. So if you, let's say you buy a laptop and the warranty for that is 12 months, Visa is extending that by another 12 months so that your entire warranty for that device, which you bought using your card, is actually sitting at 24 months. The global emergency assistance, this is to say that we actually realize life happens. Anything could happen. You could lose your luggage, you could misplace your card. This is to say that you will not get stranded at any point in time. You should be able to reach out to your bank, and then the bank will find a way of getting assistance to you. How this happens is that Visa uses its global network to make sure that we can either get an emergency replacement card to you wherever you will be, or we can actually bring you cash so that you're not stranded or inconvenienced during your travels. The concierge service is an extra at any point in time. Sometimes you're in a foreign currency, you should be able to call any foreign country, sorry. You should be able to call a number and then they'll be able to guide you and tell you, okay, whatever you're looking for, you can get it from here. And basically it works the same way a concierge service works for a hotel, but now giving you a bit of a more global experience. So now we are going to move into the wealth management bit. Okay, so when it comes to wealth management, and we were just having this conversation earlier today, the objective you have for actually getting into wealth management or investment services is actually very, very critical. And even as you're trying to explore what your objective is, what we are saying is that we actually have wealth executives and investment professionals who are actually able to guide you. We can help you identify investment opportunities. We can help you leverage on any execution capabilities. We're actually able to introduce you to various networks that are across the globe. We get customers saying, I'd now like to invest in Netflix stock or Facebook stocks. So we're actually able to provide that to you at any point in time. Michael, turn on the light. So investment solutions and wealth management are used interchangeably, but again, they don't mean the same thing because wealth management is more global. It's more like more global than a global term than investment solutions. But what we are saying here is that we're actually able to help you with your financial planning, investment and advisory services, whatever type of portfolios you want to get into, to be able to access both the local and global investment products, put you in different asset classes, and then also make sure we are diversifying you depending on whatever currency you would like to take a stand on or would like to take a hold on, depending on what your investment objectives are. So we'll be able to get into more details into these two elements as we progress. The other benefits that SBM actually brings to you is that we are able to help you with your estate planning, build trust, concierge services, partnership and lifestyle benefits across the globe, international medical insurance. This is something we're also very excited about. We have some good partners that we are onboarding right now in the immediate future. And then what we are saying is that whatever these benefits are that we are presenting to you, we are extending that same to your family as well. Is to say that we cannot get we cannot have Mr. So-and-so walking in and then the same benefits are not extended to the Mrs. And even if we have Mrs. walking in, just say the same benefits that we are extending to you will be extended to your spouse and to your children as well. So I also thought I'll just give you a bit of an overview on terms of who Mauritius is. And the reason that we want to do this is because most of the investment options that we actually have are structured and actually positioned off of Mauritius. And also, like we indicated, we are the State Bank of Mauritius. Mauritius, in figures, this is just an overview, has a GDP of about 3.8. This is 2018. We need to get that updated. Per capita, 11,200. Adult literacy rate, 90%. People, they are very well read. Population of about 1.3 million. I'm told it's a very small, intimate country, size of Nairobi city, very beautiful, fantastic climate. I'm hoping at some point we'll be able to explore that region, myself and my colleagues. The advantages, I know, even before we get into it, you actually are aware that there's a lot of tax optimization benefits which comes through when you're dealing with Mauritius. I think you're also aware that there's an existing arrangement, or rather an existing corridor between Kenya and Mauritius. And Mauritius is actually, when you speak about it, it comes with the same connotation that Jersey and some of the other islands actually come with. Some of the benefits they bring aboard is that they actually have a very stable financial regulation. I think they've only amended their finance bill once in the last couple of years. I'd say maybe in the last 30 years, they've only done that once. So it brings in a lot of stability when it comes to investments. So it has a harmonized rate of 15%, tax-free dividends there. You don't pay any dividends you don't pay any tax for dividends. You don't pay tax for capital gains. It's something we used to enjoy here until recently, I think 2-3 years ago. Foreign tax credit is at 80%. There's no exchange control. Again, it provides a very fantastic logistical platform, I think also based on its location as well. It has a well-maintained road network, so making it very attractive for investments, especially when you're looking at real estate. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of stability in terms of their finance regulations and acts. It's politically stable. It does allow for 100% foreign ownership. We do get a lot of customers wanting to register their businesses in Mauritius. This is something that we're able to facilitate. The corporate tax there is actually much lower, and because of the existing corridor between Kenya and Mauritius, it makes it a very easy platform, or a very easy way to position and just take advantage of some of the tax optimization options that are available. A family office, I think this is just getting deeper into the whole conversation around wealth management, because one thing we've actually noted is that there's actually an upsurge in terms of wealth in this country. A lot of Kenyans are becoming millionaires. Globally, when you say the word millionaire, you're actually speaking of $1 million. Not the 1 million Kenya shillings. So when we say millionaires, and even when some of the reports that are coming across, I think Knight Frank does quite a bit of survey in terms of wealth in this country. you will note that the number of Kenyans who are becoming millionaires is actually increasing and more. It just speaks to the potential of our country and the potential of its people. I know even across the globe, we are known like one of the most hardworking people, or rather population across the globe. And that is actually reflecting. It's just that our local news does not cover so much in terms of some of the good news or some of the good things that's happening on the ground. It's just more of what is not working coming through from the media platforms. But the reality is, if you look for this information, you'll be able to see it, and you'll see that more and more Kenyans are coming across wealth. There was even a report that was saying that even in the time of COVID, Kenya still experienced an upsurge of millionaires. And when you're recognized by some of these researches and some of these institutions which are coming to do a bit of research, they're actually looking at wealth, clean wealth, or rather healthy wealth, and not some that are tainted by some of the scandals we see around. So when you come to speak about family office, this is actually a way of managing assets and wealth for high net worth families. And the scheme actually consists of either single family or multi-family offices. And we'll be able to touch on that a little bit as we go. But it's just to say that these are some of the things that SBM is actually able to provide for you. If we get into the same breath, like I said, wealth management, family office, private wealth, they sort of like flow in together. So some of the services that we're actually anchoring here is that, again, the relationship manager for all your banking needs. You'll actually have a primary point of contact in SBM Mauritius as well as SBM Kenya. Cutting-edge banking facilities and products are very, very impressive in terms of some of the asset classes or some of the investment options that we're actually able to position for you. Investment advisor and distributor of financial product license, we already hold that. That makes it very easy for you. And the fact that we are regulated by the Bank of Mauritius as well as the Financial Service Commission, it tends to give a bit of comfort. And that's why even at the beginning, we were saying that we are a publicly listed company in Mauritius. When you're a publicly listed company, there's a lot of regulation and control that comes with that. So there's a lot in terms of compliance and prudence that is actually gives an investor a bit of comfort that I'm actually dealing with professionals who are well regulated. We did speak about the Visa Infinite card that we give you here locally. What we're actually able to give you through our mother company is the SBM World Elite Mastercard, a fantastic card with so many benefits. One of my colleagues who has joined on the call actually has one of these cards, and maybe we can engage her later and she can tell us more in terms of how her experience is. Our digital platform, we did say that our whole experience, or rather our whole delivery, is actually going to be anchored around technology, wealth management, how we deliver that across all the various asset classes, and I'll touch on that shortly. Wealth planning, like I did indicate, people do come across wealth, and as much as it's actually a fantastic thing, if it's not well managed, if it's not well planned, it actually can just run out. The people usually say lottery winners, as much as they come through millions and millions of dollars, sometimes that just disappears in a couple of years. It's because sometimes you just need a bit of help or assistance when you're actually managing wealth, and you need to do that through specialists. Real estate financing, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, in the sense that if you invest in real estate in Mauritius up to a certain amount, it actually comes with an automatic citizenship into that country. Tailored financing solution. This is just sort of to reiterate that all the financing solutions that we discuss with you are actually needs-based. We look at what is it that you're looking to do. What are your objectives? Are you looking to save because of your children's education? Are you trying to make sure that the wealth you've worked so hard for and you've accumulated is protected? The insurance elements do play in. And then at the same time, are you trying to make sure that this wealth is actually carried forward to the next generation? What are you trying to do? So this is just sort of echoing the fact that every solution that we actually have to you is actually tailor-made specifically for you. Are you looking to get into real estate projects? We do have customers who are actually investing here locally, but borrowing off Mauritius, because there are certain elements they look at and they're like, okay, I think if I get my financing off from Mauritius, it actually gives me a bit of an advantage vis-a-vis borrowing here locally. So the options, you realize, are actually quite wide. So a bit of a deep dive in terms of how we actually handle any investment customers that come across. The first thing we do is to find out what is your risk profile. A lot of customers will come and say, I really do want to invest in a New York Stock Exchange. But at the same time, if you do look at their risk profile, you get to see that they cannot handle the kind of volatility that is there in the stock market. Like we did indicate earlier, that most of this information will actually be made available to you through digital platforms. So meaning if you invest with us, you'll be able to at any one time log in and see how your investment is performing. So if you put in $100,000 today, and then 1 month down the line, you go in and look and you see now your portfolio is actually valued at $80,000. How are you going to react to that? Are you able to handle a bit of volatility in your investment? So the first step, like we say, is to take, we take the customer through a risk profiling tool. The risk profiling tool is able to tell us what is your risk appetite. So as you can see here, you can be able to see we actually have various risk appetites that are covered here. We have the customer with a low risk appetite, moderate to considerable, and high. What is very exciting in this market is we're actually seeing a lot of customers, a lot of emergence of hedge funds. We do have quite a number of hedge funds. But if you are investing in a hedge fund, you should be able to handle the volatility that comes with that without getting a heart attack. Because you'd be, let's say you've invested 20 million Kenya shilling in Mansa X, and you see that there's a bit of volatility there. Mansa X is one of the hedge funds we have in this market. Fantastic returns. I think they are doing between 25 and 30% year on year. But if you look at the statements there, you'll be able to see there's actually a lot of volatility, because sometimes what they do is they have to take a bit of a negative stance, so that in the near future they can be able to sort of like experience a big positive upsurge on that investment. So what we do is we make sure that when it comes to investment, and also because there's always the possibility that depending on when you exit the market, that the market could actually be can turn against your favor. Without even going too far, if you just look at the Nairobi Stock Exchange, with what happened recently with COVID and everything, we did see that the index dropped quite significantly and the price of shares dropped quite significantly. So for those who are looking to exit the market at that point in time, I'm sure it was a horror story. But if you're working through a wealth manager or people who actually understand investment services, they'll be able to advise you and tell you, maybe this is not the right time to leave the market. Maybe just hold. What is your objective? Did you need the money now in 2020 or 2019 when the markets were down? Do you have an alternative? Why don't you just hold and see how does it look in the next year or in the next 2 years? So that is why trying to figure out what your risk profile is very, very significant, because it makes such conversations very, very easy. It is why sometimes even you'd get someone who, an investment advisor telling you would not invest in this right now, because you might want to get into a fund that we know in the next 1 year it's actually going to be a low, and you're only looking to get into that fund for 1 year. Then again, that is not a good option for you. So that's why the fact that we have various asset classes plays to your advantage. So your risk profile as well as your risk objective plays a very, very critical role. Sorry, I was just having a drink of water there. So for people who have a very low risk profile, what is actually preferred or what is recommended is you get more into the fixed income space. When you get now, depending on how your profile keeps increasing, whether you're moderate to moderate, now we introduce you to something a little bit more aggressive. So you can see from the moderate to considerable, you start seeing some hedge funds participating here. And even as you move ahead, when you actually have a very high risk profile, you can now get into a bit of private equity and the rest of some of the other funds, which actually have a very high return. But again, the rule always is that for high risk, you do expect to have a high return, but there's a lot of patience that is required, as well as what your objective is. If, for example, your objective is you're saving for your children's education, we might actually opt that you actually go for something between moderate and considerable, so that you don't face the possibility that when you actually need to step away from that investment and actually make university payments, that the market is actually down at that point in time. This is just a bit of an overview in terms of some of the funds that we deal with, and also the advisory bit that we play, catering for all currencies. Like we said, you can take a USD stand, a euro, Aussie dollar, GBP, as well as CHF. Structured product, what happens here is where we actually step in, and you'll find some of our fund managers designing a very specific product with a very specific rate of return. And then you'll see some of these will actually have a bit of a capital protection element. And we will be able to share this with you and tell you, okay, we have come up with this structured product, and it has let's say this bond as an underlying asset. It is capital protected. This is something that is usually very attractive for some investors, and we tell you that we can actually create a bit of leveraging on this product, because it's something that we have offered, or rather SBM has offered itself, so it's able to give you that leveraging aspect. How leveraging works is in the sense that you only have $100,000 to invest in this fund. So for a select few customers, we approach them and we tell them, okay, you have $100,000. The bank can boost you 5 times of that. So instead of your actual investment in that product now being $100,000, it becomes $500,000. And let's say the rate of return or the yield on that investment was at 5%. So for of the $100,000, 5% of $100,000 is about $5,000. So now instead of the $5,000, you're actually making $5,000 times 5. So it makes the whole product very, very attractive. So when the product comes to term, what happens is now the customer walks away with their initial investment of $500,000, and then SBM walks away with the loan of the leverage, we call it loan leverage of 400,000, already taken care of, plus a small rate of return for ourselves. So it makes it a very, very attractive offering. This is something that you will see coming through from SBM Bank maybe once or twice a year, but we do take advantage of whatever is happening in the market, and then they'll be able to structure various products and put them together, making it very attractive for the customer. Like we indicated earlier, we do position ourselves as one of the banks that actually makes sure that there's a strong relationship team to support you. So apart from your relationship manager here in the country, you'll have direct access to the traders in Mauritius. They can be able to advise you in terms of how the markets are looking. So you get a sort of like around the clock market views and execution service, like whether you could buy of things which are happening within the financial markets through our specialists. And then of the Kenyan Mauritian corridor, making communication very, very easy. One of the things we're very proud of is that I think we are one of the banks in this region where we don't really have a Chinese wall between one country and the next, in the sense that if you're in Kenya, you can be able to view and transact with your account in SBM Mauritius, in SBM India as well. So we give that capability. So it's more holistic depending on what your objective is and what markets you want to get into. Custodial services, this is something that is offered both locally here and through Mauritius group. Custodial service tends to be a very attractive avenue for clients because it gives them a bit of how can I call it? It gives them a bit of, I don't want to say hide, but it gives you a bit of confidentiality around your wealth. There are people who want to invest in certain products or certain assets without necessarily being known or it being very, very, very obvious in their financials. So through the custodial services, we are able to provide you not just a safekeeping, but it makes it very easy because it's a more holistic approach in the sense that all your income is collected on one platform. You get differentiated rates on your FX. You're able to report all your various assets as one. Again, this is a conversation that we can have with you. So if you're looking to do something with custodial, both here or in Mauritius, depending on where your investments are being held, again, this is something that we are able to position for you in the wealth management space. This is just an overview of the investment portfolio. And this is what we were saying is you could wake up one morning and see put in 2 million. Why is my investment reading at 1.2? Are you able to handle that kind of volatility? This becomes a bit of a shocker, especially if you are looking to exit the market at a particular point in time. So that's why what your objectives are is actually a very critical conversation when you get into the various asset classes, and we are able to guide and advise you. And is to say, if at one point in time you're feeling like you can get a little bit aggressive, it doesn't mean the next time or with a different set of funds you want to get moderate. That is not possible. So it's all based on your objective, because one fund could be, I've made some money here, I want to just play around with it and see how quickly or how fast I can be able to multiply my investment. In another form, it's those ones of like, oh, this is money for my children's education, I just want to keep that as that. And again, we're able to advise. Okay, so this is the last slide. You will note, maybe we didn't talk too much into financial planning, but again, financial planning and wealth management do go hand in hand. And here we are saying, why would you look at financial planning? And the biggest thing is usually the element of retirement, because these statistics, I'm sure you've come across them before, that out of every 100 people, 49 will be dependent on family, 29 will be dead, 12 will be broke, 5 will still be working, 4 will be financially independent, and 1 will be rich. I think the advantage of being a doctor is this retirement age doesn't quite frighten you. For us bankers, I think it's a different conversation. So we like to remind ourselves. Okay. One of our favorite books, The Richest Man in Babylon. I don't know if you've come across it. I'm sure you have. So I just thought, let's share some of the 10 basic principles which come to play or come out very strongly in the book. Is you should save at least 10% of what you earn from any for yourself, from any form of income that you have. You should learn to live on 90% or less of your income. Invest your accumulated capital into projects that will provide a safe, steady income, taking full advantage of compounding of interest received. Invest only in areas in which you have expertise or with people who have experience, so that here, when someone is trying to deceive you, you actually are knowing that I'm actually being deceived. Buy the house in which you live, so you don't waste any money on rent. So the mortgage element actually comes in here. Have a realistic insurance program, and always keep working at various ways and means of increasing your income. So I think my monologue ends there. This is just the contact details of myself and some of my colleagues. We want to leave that with you. But key thing is now we can be able to move to our Q&A session. Thank you very much. I don't know how long that took me. Sometimes you feel like you're alone, especially when you're presenting. Felt like a monologue.
Thank you, Doreen. for that wonderful presentation. We are now going to enter into a session of Q&A. This juncture, I'd like to introduce Ms. Laura Wendo. Ms. Laura is the branch manager, SBM Bank, Upper Hill branch. She's going to also participate in answering any questions that we might have. I can see so far we don't have any questions in the chat group. So I'm going to request the participants, if anyone has a question, they can raise their hands up. Then we shall unmute you and you can ask your question direct.
Thank you so much, Dr. I think in the group also we have our regional business manager, Caroline McKenna, and we also have our vice president for elite banking, Tejal Dave. So they can probably also assist in answering the questions, or if they have any thoughts and comments to add to this, they can just raise their hand and be able to contribute to this topic.
Yes, thank you to the SBM group. As we wait for any questions, if any of the managers feel they would like to add something, they can just raise their hands and then we shall unmute them and we can give them an opportunity to say something.
Terry, at this point, I can ask, I don't know if the content was actually helpful or relevant to what your good the society was looking for or was looking at.
I'm sure it was very relevant, more so at a personal level. And I'm sure most of the questions, probably the participants might need to get in touch one-on-one.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are glad that you put the contacts. Probably you can just leave the page for the contacts.
Okay.
And we'll give participants a few more minutes to see whether anyone has a burning question. I don't know if any of the other senior managers want to give any comment as we wait for any question. So Doreen or Laura, we have a question from one of the participants. Dr. Specky is asking if you can kindly elaborate on the straight corridor between Mauritius and Kenya.
Oh, okay, yes. The Kenyan-Mauritian corridor is basically an agreement between the two countries. So basically, the president for Kenya and Mauritius and came into agreement and said just to sort of like facilitate, make it very easy for international trade and economic exchanges between the two countries. So the corridor between Kenya and Mauritius is actually very strong. You'll find like Mauritius does not grow most of its own fruits and most of its own food. Most of its food actually comes from the Kenyan market. Everything from fruits, avocados, some of the basic foods that you would actually enjoy if you go to Mauritius, because they don't grow their own food. So when there's a corridor, sort of like a treaty between two countries, it means that it makes it very easy for the traders to actually do trade. There are not very many questions asked because that has sort of like been softened, and we've seen most of the regulations that have been put in place between Kenya and Mauritius has tended to get better and better. There was even that element about double taxation between Kenya and Mauritius. So it's that thing in the sense that if you're already taxed in one country, you will not be taxed again in the other country because there's already an existing corridor, sort of like an existing treaty between the two countries. So that's what makes investment very, very attractive. And like we were indicating to you before, let's say you're running your practice for a while and you're running it as a limited company. If you get to a point and you say, I actually want to invest to incorporate my business in Mauritius and still continue operating here in Kenya, that is actually very, very possible. So the only thing is that what's going to happen is that because your business is actually registered in Mauritius, you actually are fall under the jurisdiction of Mauritius, and the tax regulations for Mauritius is actually what is going to apply for you. So let's say, for example, instead of paying the 30% corporate tax, you will now be paying the 5% corporate tax that is actually applicable in Mauritius. If you actually sell a property and all that, now you will not be taxed on those capital gains. You will not be taxed on any kind of dividends. So that is how now the corridor comes into play, because first of all, the element of double taxation falls off, and then makes it very easy to do investments, any economic activities and trading between the two countries. I don't know if I've answered, Dr.
Thank you so much. I think we can take one more final question from Charles Atemba. He inquires, what does he do to obtain a loan? I think there's a page you had put up on the various loans and what the requirements were. Probably can put up the page and just summarize it for him.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you for that question. So the process for getting a loan is actually very, very simple. I think what I would advise is that you can pick one of our contacts. Laura's contact is also there. So give us a call, and then we'll reach out, and then we can have the conversation with you. So we figure out what it is you're looking to do, and then we can be able to take that conversation from there. I don't know if that's of help.
Okay, thank you, Doreen. I think that is clear.
Thank you.
I think the message is clear that any queries can be channeled at a personal level directly to you with the contacts that have been shared. I think at this juncture, I'd like to thank McKenna. I can see McKenna is back, but unfortunately, we are still not able to unmute her.
I can speak now.
Oh, you're
fantastic.
here. Okay. All right. Probably can do a short comment.
Okay. So mine is to thank the society for giving us an opportunity to be able to engage with your members, and not only just to engage in terms of wealth management. We have solutions for you, and we have taken a keen interest in the medical space, especially the doctors, just to be able not only to solution you on creation of wealth, is also how to build on that wealth. And that's why when there are questions about the loans, then those are areas that we are very keen to have conversations with you. Not only for employment income, I know a lot of the doctors also run their own private practices. They have multiple streams of income. They have agreements with the different hospitals, and we're able to look at you as an entity and see how we can solution you, even in terms of facilitating your wealth growth. So we are able to sort you out, to solution you in many ways, and we're looking forward to have a lot more engagements with the society. Our branch at Upper Hill is right at the doorstep of the society, and we are more than ready and willing to be able to come and engage with the members. So this is just a comment, and mine is to say a really big thank you to the society for giving us this opportunity, and we're looking forward for very fruitful engagements with the members. Thank you.
Thank you so much, McKenna. I would like to pass a vote of thanks to the presenters today, Doreen, Laura, and the rest of the management at SBM Bank. Thank you so much for enlightening us, and I think the participants have benefited, and they'll get back to you with their various requests. I'll just like to remind the participants that the recording of the presentation will also be available through the KSA website, YouTube, and Facebook page. For the local physicians, this presentation is CPD accredited, and the CPD points shall be sent via your emails. For the non-local physicians and our colleagues, the nurses and the clinical officers, a certificate will be provided for this presentation, and this shall also be sent to your various emails. We shall have our last webinar, KSA webinar on the 9th of December. And all of you are welcome to participate as we close the year. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you again on the 9th. Good night.
Thank you so much once again. Thank you.